The Galactic Academy's Xenobiology lecture hall stretched 3 stories high, its crystalline walls refracting the light of distant stars. 200 alien students filled the tiered seats, tentacles, chitin, scales, and geometries that defied terrestrial logic. In the very back row, unnoticed and unremarkable, sat Leo Martinez, the only human in a classroom designed for beings far larger than himself. He'd grown accustomed to invisibility. Humans were the newcomers, the primitives from a backwater world who'd only just discovered faster than light travel. Most species barely registered their presence, and Leo preferred it that way. He took his notes, kept his head down, and tried not to think about how his species was classified as adorably harmless in the official galactic taxonomy. Elsa Thornwood sat 3 rows ahead, her blonde hair tied back in a practical braid. She was the opposite of invisible, the human ambassador's daughter, always surrounded by curious aliens wanting to touch her strange mammalian features. Leo had watched her field their questions with patient grace for weeks now, never once losing her composure. Professor Crixtel, a towering Valorian with 6 eyes and bioluminescent skin, droned on about predator-prey dynamics. "You see," the professor's translator crackled, "apex predators across the galaxy share common traits. Superior strength, enhanced senses, pack-hunting behavior." The doors burst open. 4 Corinthian cubs bounded into the lecture hall, their teacher chittering apologetically behind them. Corinthians were among the galaxy's most feared predators, 8 feet tall even in adolescence. With titanium-hard exoskeletons, razor mandibles, and a hunting instinct honed over 10 million years of evolution, these particular cubs were visiting from the junior academy next door. "Please excuse the interruption," their teacher clicked through her translator. "The younglings wish to observe a proper university lecture." Professor Crixtal gestured magnanimously. Of course. Let them observe predator biology in action." The cubs scattered through the lecture hall, their compound eyes taking in everything with predatory intensity. Most students instinctively shrank back. Corinthians didn't attack other sapients, that was civilized law, but 10 million years of instinct couldn't be entirely suppressed. One cub, slightly larger than the others, climbed toward the upper rows. Its gaze fixed on Elsa. Leo's hand stopped moving on his tablet. He recognized that look. He'd seen it in nature documentaries, in the eyes of lions stalking gazelles, wolves circling deer. The cub was young enough that civilization was still a thin veneer over pure instinct. The cub chittered, a sound its translator didn't bother to convert. Every creature in the hall knew what that sound meant. In the rows around Elsa, aliens scattered. The Valorians phased partially out of local space. The crystalline collective shattered into defensive fragments. The Thermodonians sealed themselves in heat-resistant cocoons. Elsa stood frozen, her back against the wall. The cub approached slowly, mandibles clicking with interest. To its primitive brain, she was small, soft, slow, prey. The cub's teacher shrieked commands, but the young Corinthian was already lost in hunting mode. Its siblings joined it, forming a loose semicircle. 4 cubs, 1 human girl, and 200 students too terrified or too civilized to intervene. Leo moved. He didn't think about it, didn't calculate odds or consider consequences. One moment he was in the back row, the next he was vaulting over seats, his worn backpack forgotten. He landed between Elsa and the lead cub with a thud that seemed impossibly loud in the suddenly silent hall. The cub paused. This new creature was even smaller than the first, even softer looking. Easy prey. Then Leo did something that made every species in that room question their understanding of humans. He didn't run, didn't freeze, didn't try to reason with it. He stared directly into the cub's compound eyes and took a step forward. The cub's mandibles stopped clicking. In its young mind, prey didn't advance, prey fled. This violated every instinct it had developed. Leo took another step. His heart hammered against his ribs, but his face showed nothing but calm determination. He spread his arms slightly, making himself bigger, and let out a low sound from deep in his chest. Not quite a growl, not quite a shout, but something primal that needed no translation. The cub stepped back. "That's right," Leo said quietly, his voice steady. "You don't want this fight." Another step forward. The other 3 cubs began backing away, their hunting formation dissolving. Their teacher stood paralyzed, watching a creature 1/10 their size dominate her students through sheer force of will. Leo's eyes never left the lead cub, somewhere in his genetic memory, in the bones of his ancestors who'd faced down cave bears and saber-toothed cats with nothing but stones and fire. He knew how this dance worked. Predator recognizing predator. The cub saw something in those human eyes that triggered ancient warnings. This creature had climbed to the top of its own food chain, and it remembered how. The lead cub turned away, breaking eye contact. The spell shattered. All 4 cubs retreated to their teacher, chittering in confusion and something that might have been respect. Leo stood there for a moment longer, adrenaline still singing through his veins before turning to Elsa. "You okay?" She nodded, unable to speak, her green eyes wide with shock. The lecture hall erupted, not with fear but with a sound Leo had never heard before. Hundreds of aliens expressing amazement in their native tongues simultaneously. Professor Crickstall's 6 eyes were all focused on Leo, bioluminescence pulsing rapidly. "Extraordinary," the professor breathed. "Class, you've just witnessed something remarkable." The human, Crickstall checked his roster, Leo Martinez, has demonstrated what his species calls persistence predator behavior. Humans evolved not as the strongest or fastest, but as the most stubborn. They simply refused to be prey. Leo climbed back toward his seat, face burning, suddenly very aware that every eye in the room was following him. So much for invisibility. Elsa caught his arm as he passed. "Thank you," she whispered. He managed a shaky smile. "No problem. Welcome to Earth strategy. We're too stupid to know when we're outmatched." But as he settled back into his seat, Leo noticed something had changed. The aliens weren't looking at him with dismissal anymore. There was wariness there now, yes, but also curiosity, respect. No one would fail to notice the human in the back row again.